guys. So today I've been asked to film a Q&A. These are just some questions that my friends and loved ones have submitted. So I'm going to go through them one by one and just get across the information that they've asked for. So the first question is by Sophie. How or what made you initially get into bodybuilding? Well, I initially started off as quite an overweight child. I was someone that I didn't have my eating sorted out, basically. I was overweight and I did eat junk food. I had a very limited palate. I didn't like a lot of foods, and that's just how I was. My brother got me into the gym at the age of, I believe, pretty close to about 14 years old. And I just joined him in training sessions. So initially I just started doing some bodyweight movements and pull-ups, a little bit of cardio, some abs. Eventually I sort of progressed to do some of the weight training with him. He taught me a lot, and I noticed he was getting muscular at the time. So his idol at the time, I believe, was Brock Lesnar. Probably still is, but he's a jacked up, massive wrestler. And he always was inspired by him and his build and his physique and stuff like that. I had a different approach. So I don't know where I came across it, but I was always interested in bodybuilding, like building a superhero, cartoonish sort of physique. And it's something that people, it's very niche. It's very much a cult sport. People won't fall into it. Anyway, so I'm rambling. So my friend Mark Young at the gym, he was into bodybuilding. He's maybe a year or two older than me, and he competed one year. And I saw him and thought, "Wow, you're ripped! You know, great tone and definition, stuff like that." And I thought, "Hang on a minute, I'm about the same size as this guy. Why don't I just do that? You know, it gives me something to use my time towards and think about." And yes, that's basically how I got into bodybuilding. So the next question was by Sophie again. She asked, if someone was unsure about competing, what would you say to them and what advice would you give? Like many bodybuilders, I'll say, don't get into it. It can be quite problematic for a lot of people if they don't know what they're doing or don't have a good coach or aren't guided the correct way. If I was to say to someone, you know, you're getting into it now, this is what you need to do, I'd find someone that you know, a friend, someone that's more experienced than you. Follow them on their journey in bodybuilding, see what they do. I think they make for great tutors, and I think a lot of people miss that, particularly young people. So the next question was from Nick Morpeth. He asked, in regards to conditioning, would you recommend fasting for 24 hours to get ripped or adjusting macros on carnivore diet? So to reduce fat. I'd say you're going to be able to sustain a carnivore diet where you're utilizing, an energy deficit of some sort. It's a very nuanced question. It's not something I'm going to say, just reduce your fats, your carbs or proteins, whatever it is, and see how it goes. It's very nuanced. It's very much a coaching sort of question. I don't particularly like fasting unless someone has a specific health ailment. So, for example, they're trying to suppress oncogenes, mitigate the cancer, perhaps. There's a benefit to autophagy, which is, it's a loose term to say basically your body recycles old cells and clears away what junk it doesn't need. Some people may benefit from that. I personally like just fitting into a plan that you can maintain. And that's what I'd say is a key feature of a fat reduction plan. So my next question is from James McDonald. He asked, what lessons have you learned from mistakes or setbacks? Quite a few. I've learned basically to trust your loved ones. They do ultimately have your best intentions at heart. And oftentimes they can be more experienced than you in that regard. It may be that they've been through that problem themselves and they've managed to overcome it. And listen to your body. So that's another lesson I'd say. It's going to be harder if you're eating a load of junk food in your diet and following some of the pros on YouTube in regards to training. But like I said in the last point earlier, find a good mentor that knows what they're doing and see how that goes. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. So James also asked, what are your top resources for learning about bodybuilding and overall health? At the moment, it's most definitely Bart K, Harry Sopanos. They're not bodybuilders, funnily enough, but it doesn't mean they don't know a damn lot about bodybuilding and how to grow and develop your muscles. The same applies to the overall health aspect of the question. Those guys really do know a lot, and I'd advise people to follow them and see what they've got to offer. Outside of that, Scott Stevenson, he's an expert in the field of bodybuilding. He basically wrote the book on bodybuilding. I advise people to buy that if they can afford it and have a good look through that. It really does lay out some key principles around bodybuilding. Outside of that, Lyle McDonald, he's been in the nutrition fitness space for a long time. The value in his lessons is from what he's seen and the studies he reads, and he can underpin a lot of key points that people might be missing in their diet or training. And anyway, I recommend you watch his channel. So my next question is from Pim Johnson. She asked me, what do you think or feel when they don't give you the score you think you deserve? I imagine she's talking about bodybuilding. I feel gutted. It is extremely disappointing, to say the least, when you spend months, or in my case, a year and a half preparing for a competition, to barely get looked at when you're on the stage, to be judged by people that don't know you, who oftentimes aren't in shape themselves. It is frustrating. That is what I can say. It is certainly frustrating. The thing is, you got to move on from that, and ultimately the effort you've put into it, and it gives you that discipline that a lot of sports also give you. So the time you spend in the gym, the time you spend preparing your meals, the thought process that goes around each and every action you perform during a day, that will make a huge difference on the score you get on stage. If you think otherwise, you're daft. So my next question is from Leah. She asked, what are your physique goals from this point onwards? They're certainly not as high as what I'd hope. I could see myself, if I pan back maybe 3-5 years from now, I'd see myself as being a top Olympia competitor. When I say top, I mean like top 12. I'm not going to be Mr. Olympia. I highly would doubt that. Now, that's a really good question. I just want to be better, feel better. It's more around how I feel nowadays, and I want to be able to maintain the muscle I have built up. Whenever I'm walking around the gym or people can see me, I do get eyeballs, and it's frustrating, but it also reassures you that you know what you're doing. What you're doing is correct. People will notice. I do it ultimately myself. The discipline aspect and just making gains in general and seeing the whole journey unravel before you. That's what my goal is at the moment, just to keep doing what I'm doing and be able to sustain what I'm doing. So our next question is also from Leah, and she asked, are you doing any more competitions? I would love to. The thought of not competing to me is extremely mentally damaging. Oftentimes I think, my spine is stopping me from doing X, Y, Z. And yeah, it may be that I can never compete again, and I'll have to accept that. That's my own duty, but I would love to compete again. whether it be in bodybuilding, classic physique, or just men's physique, the competitive nature that I have is really amplified, especially in bodybuilding. And the self-satisfaction and self-worth you gain from it is really, really imperative to me. So I hope this brief Q&A segment has been useful for you guys. Feel free to ask some more questions through the comments if you like. Be interesting to hear what sort of things you want to know about. Cheers.